I stood there, in front of my father's casket, and my own mother whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "She's just here for the free food." A few cousins chuckled, some even nodded. My hands clenched, but I didn't flinch, because what they didn't know was that Dad left me everything. If this story grips you already, don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and share. This one's going to leave your jaw on the floor. The entire church smelled like fresh flowers and fake sympathy. My Aunt Linda kept fake crying into tissues she probably bought in bulk. My brother Nathan, in his designer suit, kept shaking hands with family friends like it was a business meeting. No one looked at me like I belonged. I didn't wear Gucci, didn't have a husband on my arm, and didn't pretend to care about their lies. I just came to bury my father. But they came to bury me. Dad had raised me quietly, away from the spotlight my mother and brother always craved. They lived in the city, with champagne brunches and drama-filled vacations. I stayed back in Kansas, helping Dad run the little bookstore he loved. Everyone thought I was a failure. No job title, no social media bragging rights. Just Josie, the weird one who never made it. After the service, everyone gathered in the reception hall. That's when Nathan, standing smugly by the catering table, clinked his glass. "Before we eat, let's toast to Dad, and say goodbye to Josie's freeloading days." The laughter that followed hit me harder than grief. My own mother didn't stop him. She sipped her wine and smirked. But just as I was about to walk out, humiliated, heartbroken, and done, the lawyer, Mr. Porter, tapped his pen on a folder and cleared his throat. "Actually, before anyone goes, your father had one final request. The will must be read out loud, right now." And just like that, the room fell dead silent. The air turned thick with tension as Mr. Porter unfolded the will. Forks froze midair, wine glasses slowly lowered, and every fake smile vanished. For once, nobody was laughing. Nathan's smirk twitched. Mom crossed her arms, clearly irritated that something was about to shift attention away from her little post-funeral performance. I stood still, not saying a word, just watching. Because I already knew what was written in that envelope. I just wanted them to hear it. From a stranger's mouth. Mr. Porter cleared his throat again and began reading. "To my daughter, Josie, the one who stood by me when the rest of you were too busy chasing status, I leave my entire estate. That includes the bookstore, the property, the investment accounts, and all assets tied to my name." Gasps rippled through the room. Aunt Linda actually choked on her mimosa. My mother let out a sharp, "What?" like the lawyer had just cussed her out. And Nathan, oh Nathan, his jaw clenched so tight you could practically hear his teeth grinding. Mr. Porter continued without flinching. "To Nathan, my son, I leave nothing. You only showed up when it was convenient, or when you needed money. And to my ex-wife, Carla, I leave a message. You cared more about appearances than love, and you treated Josie like she didn't exist. This is your reward." Silence. Thick. Brutal. Beautiful. My heart pounded, not out of fear, but out of release. Years of being treated like a burden had all been erased in that moment. The woman who used to hide family photos of me in the drawer, the brother who told people I was just Dad's assistant. They were now staring at me like they were seeing a ghost. No more dismissive comments. No more pretending I didn't matter. But the real bomb hadn't dropped yet. Mr. Porter flipped the final page and smiled slightly. "Oh, and one last detail," he said, looking straight at Nathan. "Your father sold the bookstore 2 years ago for $6.8 million. The buyer? Josie." Everyone's head snapped toward me. My brother's eyes widened in pure disbelief. "What?" he croaked, voice cracking. "You don't have that kind of money?" I smiled. Not wide. Just enough. "You never asked what I've been doing all these years, did you?" Because while they were busy throwing parties and chasing Instagram followers, I was building an online publishing empire, quietly, consistently, and completely in Dad's name. He believed in me when no one else did, and I kept that promise. I turned the small bookstore into a virtual brand, scaled it globally, and licensed Dad's rare book collection into multiple e-learning platforms. They didn't know, because they never cared to ask. Mom's wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the marble floor. Nathan looked like he wanted to scream, but nothing came out. And I stood there in a plain black dress, no makeup, no designer labels, just power. And I wasn't done yet. Nathan stormed toward Mr. Porter like a rabid animal, veins bulging from his neck. "This has to be a mistake. My dad wouldn't do this to me. I'm his son. His son." Mr. Porter calmly closed the folder. "It's no mistake. Your father signed these papers in front of 3 witnesses, including a judge. He was clear, very clear." Nathan turned to me, face red with fury. "You manipulated him, didn't you? That bookstore fried your brain. You took advantage of a dying old man." "He wasn't dying when he made the will," I cut in quietly. "He was the strongest I'd ever seen him. Clear, sober, proud." My mother stood up then, slowly, like some villain revealing her final card. "Josie, sweetheart." Her tone was dripping with sugar but soured with desperation. "Maybe we misunderstood each other. Of course, you were close to your father. Maybe we didn't always show it, but we love you. Right, Nathan?" Nathan looked like he had swallowed acid. "What?" he muttered. Mom smiled wider, ignoring him. "We're still family, and family shares, right?" That's when I laughed. Genuinely. For the first time in years. It wasn't the kind of laugh that came from joy. It was the kind that came from a lifetime of finally realizing you were never the crazy one. "You only remember I'm family now that I have something you want?" I asked. "Where was this love when I needed help covering Dad's chemo bills? When you told people I wasn't even invited to Nathan's engagement party? When you called me embarrassing behind my back?" The room had gone still again. People stared. Friends, cousins, even the pastor who had stayed behind. And I didn't care. I had their attention now, not because I begged for it, but because I earned it. Then I dropped the second bomb. "I'm selling the house," I said flatly, looking right at my mother. "And the apartment in Miami? That one too. You won't be staying there anymore." Her smile finally cracked. You can't do that. That's where I live." I raised an eyebrow. "Lived. Past tense. Dad bought it. It's in my name now." Nathan stepped back like someone had just punched him. "You're doing this on purpose. You want to hurt us." "No," I said calmly. "I just stopped letting you hurt me." Their expressions were priceless. The people who used to speak over me were now silent. The ones who mocked my simple life were now begging me not to ruin theirs. But I wasn't here for revenge. I was here to close a chapter. Just then, Mr. Porter handed me a small sealed envelope. "Your father wanted you to open this alone," he whispered. I took it gently, heart pounding again, but for a different reason. Something inside me knew that the biggest surprise wasn't in the will, it was in that envelope. And what I found inside changed everything. I stepped outside into the cold air, the envelope gripped tightly in my hand. My heart thudded like a drum, louder than the muffled chaos still unfolding inside. I didn't open it right away. I just stood there beneath the overcast sky, breathing in the silence my father always loved. When I finally slid my finger beneath the flap and unfolded the single piece of paper, my legs nearly gave out. "Josie," it read, in his familiar, steady handwriting. "If you're reading this, then everything has gone according to plan. I know what they've done to you. I saw it all. The way your mother treated you like an outsider, the way Nathan used you like a footnote in his perfect little world. But I also saw you become more than they ever imagined, and I'm proud, endlessly proud. My eyes welled with tears, but I kept reading. You're not just inheriting my money, you're inheriting something else. Something no one else knows about. There's a storage unit under my name, locker number 17, at First Street Depot. The code is 1974. What's in there is the real legacy. Handle it your way. I trust you. I stood there, frozen. I didn't know whether to cry or run. My father had never spoken of any storage unit. All these years he'd quietly prepared something else, another secret. And he'd hidden it from everyone. The next morning, I went alone. The warehouse was gray, industrial, and nearly empty. Locker number 17 sat at the far end, rusted and silent like it had been waiting for me all this time. When I entered the code, the lock clicked open like magic. Inside were boxes, dozens of them, labeled by year. Old files, business plans, ledgers. I started scanning through them, and my mouth dropped open. My dad wasn't just a bookstore owner. He'd been investing in startups since the late 90s. Quietly, patiently, with me listed as the secondary beneficiary on every single one. Tech companies, renewable energy projects, even a biotech firm that just went public last year. He'd built a silent empire, not for Nathan, not for my mother, but for me, because I had stayed, because I had believed in him. One of the folders had a sticky note on it. If anything happens, call David Kim. Beneath it was a number. I didn't recognize the name, but a quick search told me everything. David was the CEO of one of the startups. And Dad? He was the original angel investor. The value of just that one investment? Over $9 million. My knees buckled. This wasn't just about money. This was validation. Proof that everything I had ever done, staying, helping, building, wasn't invisible. I went back home the next day, calm and composed, while Nathan and my mother had been spiraling. They'd tried calling, texting, even showing up at my apartment. But I didn't respond. Not yet. Because now I had more power than they could dream of. And I was about to show them exactly what that meant. 1 week later, I invited them all to a private dinner, the same fancy downtown restaurant where they'd once celebrated Nathan's promotion and conveniently forgot to invite me. This time, I booked the entire place. I wore a sleek black pantsuit, no jewelry, no flashy makeup, just confidence. When they walked in, their faces said it all: confusion, discomfort, and fear. Nathan tried to speak first. Josie, look. About everything. I raised a hand. Don't. You're not here to apologize. You're here to listen. They sat, awkward and quiet. For the first time in my life, they weren't in control. I know you're wondering why I called this meeting, I said, tapping gently on the wine glass in front of me. I'm here to deliver some final updates, just like Dad did at the funeral. Their eyes darted around. My mother tried to force a smile. Sweetheart. Stop calling me that, I snapped. You only use that word when you want something. I pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. This is a complete breakdown of the investments Dad made over the last 20 years. Turns out he was worth nearly $26 million, and as you both already know, he left it all to me. My brother let out a low whistle, trying to act casual. That's a lot of pressure for someone who used to shelve books for a living. I leaned in, voice sharp. Funny, that girl who shelved books just became your landlord. They blinked in unison. You remember Dad's old property firm? The one you mocked for being small potatoes? Well, I bought out his silent partner last week. That firm owns the building your law office rents, Nathan. And Mom? That country club you bragged to your friends about? The one you thought you had lifetime access to? I bought it too. Your name's been removed from the guest list. My mother gasped. You're lying. You wouldn't. I did, I said calmly. Not out of revenge, out of closure. I stood, picking up my clutch. I didn't become successful to prove you wrong. I did it because I had something real to protect. Dad's legacy. And because deep down I always knew my worth, even when you didn't. They sat in stunned silence, their pride now hollow and useless. As I walked away, I heard my mother whisper, "She's not the same girl." And she was right. I wasn't. I was the girl they underestimated. The girl they laughed at during her father's funeral. And now, I was the woman who owned everything they thought would be theirs. The silence behind me was the sweetest music I'd ever heard. And as I stepped into the night air, I whispered quietly to the stars, "We did it, Dad."